Hey guys, Zander here, and today we're looking at decks in Modern. This is a Urza Sword Combo deck that I put together for you guys, featuring some of the cards from the new Modern Horizons, namely Urza, Lord High Artificer. Running him in a 4 of, at a 4 cost, 2 and 2 blue, he's a 1/4 legendary creature human artificer. When he enters the battlefield, you create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. He then has the ability to tap an untapped artifact you control and create 1 blue mana, and he has pay 5, shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until in a turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Card's insane, absolutely bonkers. Everything about this card is busted. I reckon it's awesome that they've finally got him in card form, so this deck's trying to abuse him as much as we can. To help break him, we're using another fairly known quantity, which is the Thopter Sword Combo, which is the Thopter Foundry that we're running in a 4 of, and Sword of the Meek that we're running in a 3 of. So the combo between these two is if you have a Thopter Foundry out, so Thopter Foundry is for 2, it's an artifact that sits on the battlefield, you pay 1 generic and sacrifice a non-token artifact to put a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying into play, and you gain 1 life. The Sword is a 2-cost equipment that sits on the battlefield. Its equipped creature gets +1/+2. It's an equipped cost of 2, but whenever a 1/1 creature comes into play under your control, you may return Sword of the Meek from your graveyard to play, and then attach it to that creature. So what's going to happen is, as long as we have mana, we can pay 1 to sacrifice the sword, create a 1/1, and gain 1 life. The 1/1 hits the board, the sword comes back from the graveyard, goes back onto that new 1/1, and then we can repeat the process. In the original deck, the one without Urza, you were limited by the mana that you had, but with Urza, it just bursts this combo wide open, because now, every time we get the sword back, we can tap the sword, or we can tap the Thopter if we want to generate that mana, because we just feed it back through the Foundry, and then just go infinite. So we can end up with infinite life, we end up with infinite creatures, and we end up with infinite mana. That infinite mana gets spent on his last ability, and then we just siphon through our deck looking for a win con. The win cons in the deck are a couple of copies of Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, which is for 15. It's a 15/15 legendary creature Eldrazi. Emrakul the Aeon's Torn can't be countered. When you cast it, you take an extra turn after this one. It has flying, protection from colored spells, and Annihilator 6. So when it attacks, your opponent has to sacrifice 6 permanents. And when Emrakul is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles his or her graveyard into his or her library. And if we're comboing off well enough into the infinite creature, infinite mana thing, a couple of copies of Time Sheave will also do the same trick. So Time Sheave is for 2, a blue and a black. It's an artifact that sits on the battlefield, and it's got tap, sacrifice 5 artifacts, take an extra turn after this one. Which means that our infinite Thopters turns into infinite turns, allowing us to get infinite combats, just swinging in. Eventually we're going to win. Or it's going to give us the turns that we need to grind through the deck and find a win con if that's not going to work for us. The rest of the deck is just ramp or helping us find combo pieces, except for another alternate win con, which is 3 copies of Walking Ballista. So Walking Ballista is for 2x, it's a 0/0 artifact creature construct. So it enters the battlefield with X +1 counters on it, which is every 2 you pay, you get 1 counter. So for 2x, it's a 0/0 artifact creature construct. Walking Ballista enters the battlefield with X +1 counters on it. So for every 2 you paid to play it, it gets a +1 counter on it. It's also got pay 4 to put a +1 counter on it. And then at any time you can remove a +1 counter from it to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So if we roll into the whole infinite mana thing and we already have a Walking Ballista out, we can just siphon all the mana through this and then just ping our opponent to death. If we just have a lot of artifacts and we have an Urza out and we don't have the infinite combo, same thing, we can just pour all the mana into this, ping our opponent. A really, really good alternate win con in the deck. I'm also running 3 copies of Psy, Master Thopterus, to help shore up the deck a little bit. So he's for 3, 2, and a blue. It's a 1/4 legendary creature human artificer. With whenever you cast an artifact spell, you create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. He's also got pay 2, 1 and a blue to sacrifice 2 artifacts and draw a card. So if we're kind of on the combo, but we haven't got Urza, or haven't quite got a way to get infinite, this is going to be able to turn our Thopters, that we're seemingly going to have a lot of, into cards, trying to dig in to get our combo pieces. Just another great card that helps with so many synergies in the deck. To help us tutor for stuff, we're running 4 copies of Whir of Invention, which is for X and 3 blue at instant speed. It also has Improvise, so you can tap any number of your artifacts to help with the X cost of it. And it's got Search your library for an artifact card with mana cost X or less, put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. So what we're going to be trying to find here is either the combo pieces in the Thopter Foundry or the Sword, or we could be looking for something like Paradox Engine, which we're also running a 2 of. So Paradox Engine is for 5, it's a legendary artifact, with whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control. This is in there kind of as another jank way to shore up our combos. If we haven't got the Sword combo, and we just have a heap of stuff that can tap for mana, we're going to be able to go, okay, I tap all of my stuff down with the ability on the Urza, I tap all my stuff down, I create, say I've got 10 artifacts. I tap 10 artifacts, I create 10 mana, I use Urza's last ability twice, and if we don't whiff, we're casting stuff off the top for free. As long as it's not land twice, Paradox is going to untap our stuff, and then we can keep repeating the process. So I'd say the magic number is 10. You probably want about 10 artifacts. That doesn't have to be non-token artifacts. That can be any one of the Thopters. So for us to have, say, 5 artifacts and 5 Thopters out at the same time, not hard in this deck at all. So Paradox Engine and Urza comboing together, another great way to just cycle through the deck. And then seemingly the same thing. We'll be able to generate a heap of mana, generate a heap of card advantage, hard cast an Emrakul. You get the idea. The deck should work in a number of different ways, trying to accomplish the same kind of things, but there's a lot of lines you can go down to get to the same outcome. We're running 2 copies of Ensnaring Bridge to help against the aggro matchups. So for 3, it's an artifact that sits on the battlefield, and creatures with power greater than the number of cards in your hand can't attack. So when I actually posted a picture of this list out to some people on a Magic group that I'm part of on Facebook, someone commented saying, "Oh, you can't attack with Emrakul through the Ensnaring Bridge." And it's like, well, yeah, but then there's the Time Sheave, or the Psymaster Thopterist, or the Thopter Foundry. There's all these ways that you can sacrifice your artifacts, so this Ensnaring Bridge is never going to stop us when we need it. Like, when we need to get through, the Ensnaring Bridge is never going to stop us. We're just going to be able to sacrifice it and then swing through. So that's not an issue, just as a full disclosure on that one. For anyone looking at it going, oh, well, Emrakul can't attack. Doesn't matter. 3 copies of Pantad Prism in here as ramp, essentially being a 2-mana ritual, as long as we have the Urza out, because it comes in as a Sunburst artifact. Us being in 2 colors, it should come in with 2 charge counters on it, and then we're also going to be able to tap it for blue mana as well, which can help us ramp, and that's great. 3 copies of Mox Opal, which is for 0, a legendary artifact with Metalcraft. It's got tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, activate this ability only if you control 3 or more artifacts. 3 copies of Welding Jar, which is for 0, it's an artifact with sacrifice it, regenerate target artifact. 3 copies of Mishra's Bauble, which is for 0. It's an artifact that has tap, sacrifice Mishra's Bauble. Look at the top card of target player's library, and then draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. In there is a 0-mana artifact. It can draw us a card if we need it, or we can just leave it on the battlefield if we have an Urza out, and it's just adding to the ramp we can do. Touching on the land base here, we have Polluted Delta, which has tap, pay 1 life, and sacrifice it to search your library for an island or swamp, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Watery Grave is an island swamp that comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life. 3 copies of Darkslick Shores, comes in tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands, so good for the early game. 2 copies of Spire of Industry, which has tap for colorless, or tap, pay 1 life, and add 1 color of any mana to your mana pool. Activate this ability only if you control an artifact, which is very likely going to be happening in this deck. Another couple of ways to tutor up our combo pieces is 2 copies of Inventor's Fair, which is a legendary land. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more artifacts, you gain 1 life. It also has tap to add 1 colorless mana. And it also has pay 4 to tap and sacrifice it. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only if you control 3 or more artifacts. 2 copies of Academy Ruins, helping get our pieces back from the graveyard. Academy Ruins is a legendary land with tap, add 1 colorless, or pay 2, 1 and a blue, to tap to put 1 target artifact card from your graveyard on top of your library. And 2 copies of Island. Looking at the sideboard here, we have 2 copies of Altar of the Brood, which is a 1-mana artifact with whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So if the Urza plan isn't working out, we can just go on the mill plan with the Thopters. So go for the Thopter Sword Combo, and then every time one of the tokens hits the battlefield, it's a permanent, so we're going to be milling our opponent. But it's also a 1-mana artifact that synergizes well with all of the other artifact synergy stuff in the deck. 2 copies of Pithing Needle, which is another 1-mana artifact. When it comes into play, you name a card, and activated abilities of sources of the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Shutting down Planeswalkers and a lot of other stuff in the format. 2 copies of Damping Sphere for Tron or Storm. So a 2-mana artifact. If a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces 1 colorless instead of any other type or amount. And each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn. A single copy of Spellskite, which is for 2. It's a 0/4 artifact creature horror with 1 Phyrexian blue, so either pay 2 life or pay 1 blue. Change the target spell or ability to Spellskite. Just adding a bit of protection to the deck. I did originally have 2 of them, but I took them out for other stuff that's in the sideboard here. 3 copies of Mirrodin Besieged, which is for 3, 2, and a blue. It's an enchantment, and as it enters the battlefield, you choose Mirrodin or Phyrexian. If you choose Mirren, then whenever you cast an artifact spell, you create a 1/1 colorless Mer artifact creature token. And if you choose Phyrexian, at the beginning of your end step, you draw a card and then discard a card. If there are 15 or more artifact cards in your graveyard, target opponent loses the game. One of the things I want to touch on with the Mirrodin Besieged is the synergy with Altar of the Brood. Us being able to combo off, so we can play the Mirrodin Besieged, we can do one of the combos that's going to be generating us a heap of Thopters. Those Thopters are going to help us mill ourselves. Obviously, we don't want to go infinite and deck ourselves, but with the deck being roughly half of it artifacts, we could potentially win on our end step just through this if we haven't got another way to win the game. So in a best of 3 situation, if they've got Urza covered and we just can't seem to get an answer off, playing Mirrodin Besiege, switching the deck up, going for the self-mill combo, and then potentially getting a win there could just be something that you could pull out of your sideboard, but it may or may not be a really cool way to win the game. 3 copies of Thoughtseize, adding a bit of protection to the deck for the control matchups. So for 1 black at sorcery speed, target opponent reveals his or her hand, you choose a non-land card from it, and that player discards that card, you lose 2 life. And to finish off the sideboard here, 2 copies of Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas, which is for 4, 2, a blue and a black. It's a 3 loyalty planeswalker with his one ability is look at the top 5 cards of your library, and then you may reveal an artifact card from among them, put that card into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. His neg 1 ability is target artifact becomes a 5/5 artifact creature. And his neg 4 ability is target player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is twice the number of artifacts you control. So this is one that we can bring into the deck if they seem to have something that's like really good for graveyard hate, because we are fairly reliant on being able to combo off with the sword and the Thopter Foundry. If they can just exile our graveyard, then we need to be worrying about what we can put on the board, and then we just want to go wide with anything that we can create tokens with, and the Tezzeret Agent of Bolas is going to be the best way that we've got to just outright win the game, or being able to ramp stupid hard into stuff like Walking Ballista or the Emrakul. But that is the sideboard. That is the main board. This deck looks like a hell of a lot of fun. I can't wait to playtest it a whole lot. I got super excited and just put the deck together. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let me know in the comments if you think there is something I am missing from the deck. Let me know in the comments if you like the deck, if you don't like the deck. But I know I'm going to be having a hell of a lot of fun playing this one, so thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to see new videos as they were released. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, you can throw me $1 on my Patreon at patreon.com/ZandersQuest. And I will see you guys in the next video. Keep questing, guys.